yeah, you are taking a kind of a bit of a risk, and but it actually, before we'd even started touring, it had come up, you know, where, you know, if you were going to film, you know, and one of the record executives at Sony, he had remembered when we had played Argentina once before, and he thought it was, you know, he thought that the audience there was just, you know, phenomenal. So
yeah, well, we'd heard stories before about the Jujuka tribes people, and when they bring in the rites of spring, you know, Panathian feast, which just goes on for days and days. There's stories of them smashing bowls over their heads, starting to bleed. The next day, there's not a scar or a mark or anything.
It's a bit like your wet T-shirt competition.
Love Will Set You Free is one of Whitesnake's kind of in the all for love, time is right for love, guilty of love. Yeah, all of that love stuff, for which we're so well known. The lyric is about meeting Cindy, my wife, over 20 years ago now. And I'm very happy to say that that's the record company picked that as
cities and countries that I'd like to go to. We're playing India for the first time coming up next year. Hopefully playing South Africa, which I've been dying to play. Let's see, you know, go back. We played Russia once, but we had a situation with Todd, our bass player, had to have eye surgery as soon as we landed, so he had to make an emergency flight back to LA. And Brent played bass and our drum tech played drums, so I'd like to go back to Russia.
I think it's one of the few things that we've done where we've been able to come together. I know what my job is. I wrote it a long time ago. You know, what Roger is doing these days is actually creating a new way of putting it across, and as he says, bringing it up to date. So I think, you know, it's a place where we both feel comfortable doing what we do
back
together.
then was the actual grill cloth of an amp, you know, because I used to like the thicker stuff, because it would take some of the high end out.
Yeah.
You know?
It rolls off.
Yeah, in the old club days, I used to take that stuff that you tack on the wall in a recording studio, that egg carton kind of foam stuff. I used to have a slab of that, and I would duct tape it to the front of my cabinet, because I felt bad for the people sitting right down front, you know, sitting there sipping their little Mai Tai or whatever the hell, with the cabinet sitting about 3 feet away from their head. Yeah.
Well, no, I was the last speed freak, see. I was the one that kept them all awake nights, you know, and shit like that. So they were all like dedicated dope smokers and taking acid, man, and, you know, all that. And I was taking acid too, but I was a speed freak as well, you know. And Dick Mick was the speed freak. He got me into the band so he could have somebody to chum out with, you know. Yeah. And then he left, and I was the only one left. So they were down to get rid of me, really, ever since he left, you know. They didn't realise that it would screw the band if I did, you know. Yeah. Ha-ha.
The album 13 was recorded last year. It was my 13th record. There's a lot of symbology with the number 13. For example, I started playing guitar when I was 13. I was born on the 13th, and right now we're really excited about our future. We're going to be releasing a new record next year, and our touring, which is relentless.
I mean, I love guitars, so I love collecting them, and I love you know, when we get new ones from Gibson, or I'm designing, or I just go, guys, can I have, you know, I have all my fiddles, so I have like probably over about, closing in on maybe 300 guitars or something like that. But I mean, they're all, none of them are junk. I mean, they were all playable and they're all usable. So, but no, I mean, we're getting ready for the tour. You know, you obviously bring, you know, I probably use 4 guitars throughout the night, but each one of them has a backup. You know what I mean? So I'll bring, you know, probably 2 to the Graveyard Disciples.
Pretty much actually bring the crowd in the studio. But we decided it might be easier to cut an album, go somewhere where the facilities are good enough to do an album at, where the crowd could already be. You know? And so we ended up using a video portion of Montreux Jazz Festival in '75.
Quiero reinas y mujeres bonitas. ¿Para qué más? ¿Para qué más, hermano? Eso está bien. ¿Te gustará? Vamos a la fiesta.